Calgary that you see that.
Okay, so we'll get started now. I want to thank all of you. It's really great to see so many people here for our event, What is Revolutionary Communism? This is going to be our fourth event in about a week and a half. We've been going across the prairies and holding similar events. My name is for both supporters of the Revolutionary Communist Party of Canada. Before we get started though, I want to give the land acknowledgement that we're on Treaty 7, traditional territory of the Blackfoot, Stoney, and Tsuut'ina First Nations.
Yeah, so as Comrade Nick mentioned, the topic that we'll be speaking on is what is revolutionary communism, which on the surface is a bit of a broad question and somewhat difficult to condense in an hour. So yeah, with that in mind, my name is Martin. I got my start in revolutionary politics close to 14 years ago now. So the first kind of introduction I had to it was in 2004. And so in 2010, we sent a contingent to Toronto for the G20 summit. And while we were there, we first came across the Revolutionary Communist Party. And we were pretty impressed. First and foremost, revolutionary communism is, as the name would suggest, revolutionary. It does not think that it's possible to have a parliamentary path to socialism. It thinks that revolution is necessary, good, correct, possible. It attempts to restore the revolutionary core of Marxism. So, second, revolutionary communism views itself as a science and therefore attempts to be anti-dogmatic to varying levels of success. We need an organization that gathers together the best organizers and militants of the working class, puts their struggles into cohesion with one another, and serves as a way to chart a strategic path forward to socialism. And so what we seek is a feminism that's working class in character, that seeks to organize working class people oppressed by gender, that sees as its goal gender liberation through revolution. And finally, the most, I think, misunderstood and controversial aspect of revolutionary communism is the idea of protracted people's war, which is the revolutionary strategy that we think can overthrow capitalism in this country. At its base, protracted people's war consists of a few points. First is that revolution, unfortunately, is necessarily a violent process. It sucks. I'm not a violent person. I don't like violence. But the bourgeoisie has the army, the police, racist gangs, things like that. They have all of these tools. They have force. They have organization. And so what that means is that in order to defend ourselves and in order to build the world that we want, we also need to be organized and use force. And so we see that the party doesn't just respond to crises, but actually has a role in creating them. During elections, we call for a boycott. We don't involve ourselves with the NDP. Yeah, we advocate for a boycott because we see that as being strategically useful at this time. Instead, we look to what we call the hardcore of the proletariat, following Lenin's advice to go lower and deeper. And this is largely composed of women, Indigenous people, people of color, immigrants, youth, and other marginalized groups.
Yeah, so the part that I'm going over is once you grab a program at the end, one thing that needs to be developed within our party undoubtedly is the fact that since just coming up to having existed for 10 years, our program now is quite outdated and needs to be developed. We see that the main objective of communists throughout Canada is to detach the proletariat from any sort of national program. The basis for this is that Canada is a prison for Indigenous nations. So despite long policies of assimilation and genocide by the Canadian state, we still see a vibrant resistance by Indigenous peoples across Canada. We see this as a vibrant force that needs to be allied with the settler proletariat in Canada. But the revolutionary proletariat must forge this alliance with Indigenous people in a way that will unite with them against the Canadian imperialist bourgeoisie, and this requires the guarantee of Indigenous self-determination up to and including secession. On top of this, the effects of capitalism itself more heavily affect those communities that are racialized within Canada. So while this is exacerbated among racialized peoples, this process extends to the proletariat in general. There's no way for capitalism to coexist with the environment. Capitalism cannot be sustainable and must be ended.
So So our best known initiative is the Revolutionary Student Movement. It's a separate organization, but it's grown to be the largest organization on the left of youth and students in Canada, which we're quite happy with. As I mentioned, during elections, we organize boycott campaigns. We've done those for the 2011 and 2015 federal elections, as well as a number of provincial elections. Everywhere that we organize, we work on like anti-capitalist militant May Day demonstrations that aren't just parades, but rather have a little bit of teeth. We think that May Day is important and actually should scare the bourgeoisie. We run a series of bookstores and revolutionary cultural centers, I guess you could call them, across Quebec. We were active in the QP 3902 and 3903 strikes in Toronto, and we organized a march of 1,000 people that marched from York to U of T as part of building up the capacity of that fight. Similarly, we've also taken an active lead in the struggle against so-called men's rights associations, which we consider to be violently misogynistic and also more or less fascist as well. Organized the Proletarian Feminist Front, which takes on struggles in the interest of people oppressed by gender, including shutting down the so-called March for Life in Ottawa. And the list goes on. And so in all of our actions, the thing that unites us is this idea that, as I said, revolution is correct, possible, and necessary. We reject the existing status quo and advance a new style of practice, both through action and organization. We're growing and quickly becoming a force to be reckoned with. And to that end, we invite anyone here who's interested in working with us to come and talk to us after the fact. And let's smash capitalism. Thanks for your time.